Today on the channel, we're looking at future NHLers in the Islanders prospect pool. Do we have any? Are anyone even close? And who are they? When it gets to deciding who will or won't make the NHL, we all have our own subjective biases. We have X, Y, and Z reasons why this player is guaranteed to make the NHL and why that guy's a bum and he's definitely not making the NHL. And so for this video, I've tried to remove my bias and really let someone else kind of guide the ship, if you will. And so I went over to hockeyprospecting.com. I've been using their service for a little while now. I paid the $35 Canadian or $25 American. It's a great service. I'm not being paid to say that. I'm just literally a fan. And so what I've done is I've gone to hockeyprospecting.com and I've looked at their NHLer probabilities for every player in the Islanders prospect pool. And I've pulled out the highest values, the top 5 values, if you will. And while you'll see that there aren't 5 players, there's more than that I've pulled out, you'll see why I did so. And so, without further ado, here's a top 5 ranking for NHLers in the probable NHLers in the Islanders prospect pool. And it begins with Matthew Maggio at 49% per hockeyprospecting.com. Russ Nishikov 48 next. And don't worry, we're going to talk about each and every one of these. We're going to spend maybe a minute or so on each player and talk about why they are where they are, and maybe their ranking should be a little bit higher or lower based off what we're talking about. Then we have Samuel Bolduc, 39%, so it drops a good 10 percentage points there from 2 to 3. Kaliudelius Aturatu at 38%. William Zuffo, Alex Jeffries, Bodie Wild, all at 36%. So again, more than 5 names there, but there are 5 ratings, right? I really kind of lumped together the same, or I kept the players who have the same percentage of being an NHLer together, because I didn't want to just cut it off at basically Aturatu and not talk about William Zuffo or Alex Jeffries, because I think it's important that we talk about them. But because I did that, I also had to do it for Bodie Wild, because it just wouldn't have been fair. Wouldn't have been fair. And we'll talk about Bodie Wild in a second here. First one, Matthew Maggio. 49% probability of becoming an NHLer. And again, NHLer here is at least 200 games at the NHL level. For a 5th round pick, right away you're saying, excellent, good. Should we trust that 49%? I would take it with a grain of salt. And it's not to mean that I don't think that Matthew Maggio is a good player or that I'm not excited about him. I'm very excited about what he's doing right now. You can look at the stats for yourself and see why I'm excited. Where's my mouse? 53 points, 35 games with 29 goals. 85 points, 38 goals in 66 games last year. So he's already doing better than he was last year, and that's before you factor in Shane Wright was traded to the Windsor Spitfires. There's one game with Shane Wright in there, game number 35, where Matthew Maggio picked up 2 points. But as you can tell, that's not totally skewing his stat line there. Matthew Maggio is doing ridiculous things at the OHL level, even though he's an overager, which is why we got to add a little pinch of salt about his possibility of becoming a full-time NHLer, right? Doesn't mean we can't be excited like we were for William Zuffo when he was doing things at the QMJHL level last year as a borderline overager. I didn't count him as an overager. Some people did. Technically, he wasn't. So to me, he's not. But I'm just as excited as I was for William Zuffo as I am for Matthew Maggio. But that doesn't mean I would give him a 49% chance of making the NHL at this point. I'm glad he's there, but I don't think that that's necessarily a fair representation. For Russ Nishikov, I also don't necessarily think it's a fair representation to give him a 48% chance of making the NHL. As a fan of Russ Nishikov, I agree that it should be high, but I also have to remember that this is the NHL we're talking about. And a guy who stands 5'8" like Russ Nishikov, even though he's got 25 points in 32 games at the AHL level, isn't going to get the same chance as someone who's, let's say, 6 feet and scoring 25 points in 32 games at the AHL level as an AHL rookie. It's just not going to be the same thing. And so I have to dilute that 48% and bring it down probably to 40 because of his size. It's stupid, but that's how the NHL works, and we all know it. Even Rustin knows it. At number 3, we have Samuel Bolduc at 39%. I was looking at Odili's there. And this number I also think is not necessarily totally accurate based off of today. because that number stops last year. For hockeyprospecting.com, they stopped looking after D plus 3 in terms of these rankings. D plus 3, where it ends, they stopped looking after that. And in D plus 3, Samuel Bolduc was not having a good time. If I bring up his stats, you'll see what I'm talking about. So D plus 3 was this season here, where he puts up 7 points in 57 games. Not a great season. We all remember it. But this year, though, he's going off. We're seeing the real Samuel Bolduc again at 23 points, 6 goals in 35 games. If they were counting, they being hockeyprospecting.com, we're counting this year, his percentage to become an NHLer would be a lot higher. 2 years ago, in Samuel Bolduc's draft plus 2 year, he was at 53% per hockeyprospecting.com. I think he'd be around that same number now. He might not be quite as high, so maybe not 53% per se, but I think he'd be at least at 50%. He would be number 1 on this ranking if this number kept counting this year. At number 4, we have Kaliudelius and Aatu Räty at 38%. For Kaliudelius, it's not necessarily a standout year at the Allsvenskan's level for him. He's doing well enough playing third pair minutes for Djurgårdens, but again, he's not necessarily standing out. But his skating is there. He's a hell of a skater, and his vision is pretty darn good. He's going to figure out other aspects of his game, and it's going to translate a little bit higher. But the fact that he's already at 38% now in his D plus 1 year, good stuff. For Aatu Räty, I think this number should be higher. I think it's not that it's not accurate. I think that it's just not accurately, or how should I say this? I don't think it's measuring everything. I think it's only looking at his AHL numbers. And while his AHL numbers are okay, we also have to remember that he's played at the NHL level. While a sample size is low, right? You can see it here, 7 games, 2 goals. The sample size is low at the NHL level. I think it's important to count that, because when it comes to NHLE, NHL points matter the most, right? A full 1-for-1 ratio in terms of NHL points, whereas AHL ratios are not 1-for-1. One AHL point does not equal one NHL point for obvious reasons, because it's not the NHL. And so we have to include that. We have to add the fact that he's playing at the NHL level. It's the whole point of what we're doing here. So I understand why they're not, because I think you don't want to kind of conflate numbers with small sample sizes. But I think for us, we have to include that. And what we've seen, although small in terms of not only games played, but time on ice, what we've seen, there's an NHLer there for sure in Aatu Räty. It's just how high is the ceiling at the NHL level. So I think the number here should be higher than 38%, probably in the 55s, I would say. Finally, number 5, we've got 3 guys in William Dufault, Alex Jeffries, and Bodie Wild. And let me just eliminate Bodie Wild right away. For the only reason that he's playing at the ECHL level, and guys who typically play at the ECHL level don't see the NHL level. And so I don't think there's something there for Bodie Wild. That 36% I keep looking up because the numbers are on my 4th monitor here. The 36% I think relies heavily on what he did at Saginaw, and that's been a while now. So I would just take Bodie Wild off the list. I only included him just because I included all the players at the same percentage, and he was there. Then we have Alex Jeffries, who's having a hell of a year for Merrimack. His 25 points in 21 games has pushed Merrimack within the top 10 for college hockey Div 1 sides. It's a hell of a thing. Every year he's been getting better since we drafted him, right? 10 points in 12 games as a true freshman in 2021. Then 23 points in 33 games. Maybe a bit of a step back there, but not a significant one. And then my friend's putting up 25 and 21 this year. Hell of a year for Merrimack. With Jeffries, you're getting 2 things, speed and smarts. And these are 2 things that are translatable when it gets to the next level, right? Like, he's always going to have foot speed, and he's always going to be a smart player. These are things that can service him, again, translatable in the next levels. He's not going to be an elite puck player, right? He's not going to have like Connor Bedard puck skills or Connor McDavid puck skills. But he's going to have things that are going to help him get to those next levels. And the fact that we took this guy in the 4th round, excellent. 36% may be a little bit low for my tastes, but I'll take it. Then we have William Dufault at 36%, which is excellent. But we'll take that all day, every day for a 5th round pick. When you look at his stat line, 22 points in 34 games at the AHL level. He's not dominating the AHL like he was dominating QMJHL, right? 116 points in 66 games if you were sleeping last year. He's not dominating the AHL this year. He really isn't. But what we were looking for was to see if he could keep pace as he takes a big step forward. There's a huge gulf. There's a huge gulf in quality from the QMJHL level to the AHL level. It's a big, big step up. Could he match that big step up? And I really think he is. Again, he's not dominating, so he's not going to be a dominant player, not this year. But what you wanted to see was a player who wasn't going to get lost as he took that next step. And Williams Defoe is very much not lost. He's not, leading the way, if you will, but he's doing very, very well. 22 points in 34 games with 12 goals. You'll take from Williams Defoe this year in year 1 as a pro. It's a learning year for him, and he's learning very well, it seems, and he's adapting himself quite quickly to the AHL level, which is nice to see. It might take him another year or this year plus another year to get to the NHL level, but I really think the 36% here, he will hit that 36%. He'll become an NHLer, I believe. So those are your players who are most likely to hit the NHL level within the prospect pool today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps. And thank you, thank you, thank you.